The 2024 schedule is here. Start marking your calendars, planning the road trips, and getting ready to rock the Dome in your black and gold as the Saints look to make their return to the playoffs behind a new-look offense and that always dominant NOLA defense. Welcome into our Saints 2024 schedule analysis show presented by SeatGeek alongside John DeShazier. I'm Erin Summers. We are so excited that the schedule is finally here, and we're going to kick things off with 3 primetime games for the Saints this season. Starting off in Week 5, it is a Monday night football game against the defending Super Bowl champs in Kansas City. We're going to go in Week 7 against the Broncos. That's a Thursday night football matchup. Week 16 at the Packers for another Monday night football showdown. JD, what stands out to you about these primetime matchups?
Look, the only one that matters is against Denver. Let's be real here. That's when Sean Payton comes back to the Superdome. He's never been an NFL head coach on the opposing sideline. He's the all-time winningest coach in franchise history, 152 regular season wins, 161 if you add in the playoffs, and of course, the Super Bowl champs. So that is the only one that catches the attention. Of course, playing the 2-time defending Super Bowl champs on the road, Kansas City, is a marquee game. It's huge for the Saints, and hopefully you have a great showing. But look, when the fans see the schedule, they're thinking Sean Payton's coming back to town. That's a guy that we now can dislike, I think, if you're the fans. And so that's the one that jumps off the page. And that late one against Green Bay obviously is a good one because we're talking about a Green Bay team that really improved last season, won a playoff game at Dallas. And so that looks to be a pretty good emerging team. But certainly, again, Denver coming to the Superdome, Sean Payton coming back home where it all started for him as a head coach is a huge game.
It's going to be a must-see matchup, and that's why it's one of the primetime games. Starting off the season, the Saints will face a division opponent, NFC South Carolina Panthers. They are 17-23, the Saints are, in home openers. However, they have won the last 5 straight. So you start off with the Panthers, then you'll be at the Falcons in Week 4. You'll have Tampa Bay in the Superdome Week 6, back at Carolina Week 9, and then you'll host the Falcons in Week 10. Then you have to wait all the way to Week 18 before you see the final game in the NFC South against Tampa Bay. 5 of 6 of your division opponents will be done before Week 10, and then you see the last one, Week 18. Hopefully it doesn't all come down to that for the division title against Tampa Bay. It's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of new coaches in the division, a lot of opponents that are going to look very different for the Saints. Looking at the season overall, you start 3 of 5 on the road, and then you end 3 of 5 on the road. You've seen the schedule. What stretches are going to be difficult? Where might there be an easy stretch?
Well, I think the beginning is the toughest one, really. You talk about 3 of 5 on the road and 3 of the first 6 against division champions from last season, and one of the teams that didn't win the division title last year, Philadelphia. You get them early also. So you're talking about 4 quality opponents in the first 6. And I think the Saints will find out pretty quickly where they stand. It is imperative for this team to start quickly. They have not done it the last 2 seasons. Hopefully they can do it this season.
While this schedule does look a lot tougher opponents-wise than it did last season, 8 playoff teams on the schedule, the Saints are tied with the Falcons for the easiest schedule in the NFL. Might have something to do with the division that they're in and some of the opponents they see quite often, but it's not looking as bad as we might have thought it did when you first got the opponents that you were facing.
Well, that's the thing, though. It all looks easier on paper. So, you know, when you play in Carolina was a horrid team last year. But Carolina's going to be improved. Bryce Young is going to be better. That's going to be a better roster than last year. You look at Denver, which was not a great team last year, but you know they're going to be fired up to play for Sean Payton, even though it's on the road. You look at Kansas City, always a formidable team. So you look at everything on paper, and it changes when you get to face that opponent because, you know, the Falcons didn't look great last year. Falcons got a new quarterback, Kirk Cousins, and they feel like they have the skill players to go with Kirk Cousins. So will they be an improved offense? Because their offense stank last season, but this season they figure it's going to be a better offense. It's always easier on paper. Hopefully the Saints have made their offseason moves to make their roster better. They feel like they have, but it's going to be difficult as always in the NFL.
Definitely, and then the Saints, their bye comes in Week 12. A favorable week, and you have 2 home games leading into the bye, which is Thanksgiving week, and then you have a home game out of the bye. So you're home in New Orleans for a month.
That is a great stretch for the Saints, and not just because we'll be home for Thanksgiving, folks. That's a great stretch for the Saints just because you're talking about 3 straight games at home. You're talking about the bye week in there where you can heal up some bodies, and you hopefully build yourself up for the finishing kick, because you need to have a strong finishing kick, but you can only have a strong finishing kick if you have a good kick going into that. And so certainly having 3 straight at home and the bye mixed in is probably as good a stretch as you can think of on the schedule.
I think it's going to be really fun too during that stretch out of the bye. December 8th at New York, you're going to see wide receiver Malik Neighbors out of LSU, and then the next game, December 15th, hosting Washington, former LSU quarterback Jaden Daniels. So that's going to be a fun back-to-back. Okay, the 2 games that you're going to have to pack extra gear for: December 8th at New York Giants and December 23rd at the Green Bay Packers. But that's it, only 2 cold weather games.
Yeah, and the Saints have played pretty well in cold weather games over the last few years. In fact, when Sean Payton was here, the reputation for this team was that they didn't play well in cold weather games. And statistically, that was not true. They had been successful in cold weather games.
It all starts September 8th as the Saints host the Carolina Panthers in the Superdome, so make sure you're there. For John DeShazier, our producer Brendan Hassett, I'm Erin Summers. Thanks for joining us for the Saints 2024 Schedule Analysis Show presented by SeatGeek.